And I think that covers our bases for now because I want us to get into the next panel. Should be a fun one. The perfect esports venue doesn't exist. Clearly someone's not been here so far. But to talk this one out, we have got an amazing lineup. We've got Adam Jessop, the CEO of Endpoint. We've got Dalian Ghent, the Events and Community Coordinator for SideQuest Gamers Hub. We've got Adam Rydings, Director over at Level Tap. David Yarnton, the Partner and Chief of Business Development over at Kinguin Digital Limited. And then to moderate the session, we've got Meg Kay, Communications Coordinator over at the Story Mob.
Brilliant. Please give them a round of applause.
We'll wiggle here.
Everyone, can you hear me? Yes, you can. Welcome. It's great to see you all here. Now, to save me talking at you for 25 minutes, I'm going to let my panelists introduce themselves. So if we start on the end with Adam.
Adam Jessop. I'm the founder and CEO of Endpoint Esports Limited. We're based in Sheffield. I guess for the purpose of this talk, I'm wearing two hats. We have an esports organization where we have teams compete in the traditional sense, but we also built and developed an esports venue in Sheffield, which we use as a headquarters, but we also hire it out to other esports teams. Yeah.
My name is Dalian. Dalian, I am the Events and Community Coordinator for SideQuest, which is one of the partners here. We run esports and gaming hubs all across the UK, from London to Coventry and Leicester as well. Yeah, pretty much.
Is this working?
Yeah.
Down? Okay. I'm Adam. I'm co-founder of Level Tap in Liverpool. We are the UK's newest esports activity bar concept. The idea stemmed from my background working with a leading software developer for LAN centres and esports centres around the world. So I pulled in a lot of knowledge and saw an opportunity, and yeah, launched Level Tap just 5 months ago now. So yeah, so quite pretty fresh.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Yarnton. I'm a partner at Kinguin. I've been in video games for over 35 years. As you can probably tell, my accent's not from around here. Originally from Australia, moved here in 2003 with Nintendo, and I've been involved with a number of startups, one of them being Gfinity. So as far as venues go, I've seen the good, the bad and the ugly. And currently with Kinguin, we have two facilities. One is a EPC, which is an esports performance centre with accommodation, and we also have a esports bar and cafe. So
Amazing. And as I have been introduced, my name is Meg Kay. I am a communications coordinator, there we go, at the Story Mob, who are a full-service communications agency for gaming and esports. So we've got a whole host of experience on this panel today, and I've got a lot of feedback in my microphone. And first of all, I'm going to go to you to ask, how do you build an esports venue? Because obviously you are very new, you've just done this whole thing. What goes into building an esports venue? How does this idea get off the ground? Talk me through it.
There's a lot to it, to be fair. Then it's a incredibly complex concept to get around. It's not just like opening a normal bar or restaurant. You just lay out tables. Obviously, the startup costs are pretty substantial, and just monetizing the different equipment that you've got in there is always a bit of a headache. You got to find a more of a unique selling point, a bit of a different concept, and yeah, with Level Tap, we've identified that we ultimately want to bring that kind of lively sports bar experience to esports and bring that kind of match day experience you would for a normal game. So yeah, we've trying to make esports a bit more mainstream, put it in front of a more mainstream crowd, and yeah, you've got to weigh up the kind of local economy in the area that you're aiming to open in as well, the kind of the demographic, obviously the existing kind of bars and restaurants of that type, and spot that kind of opportunity. And obviously this is these esports bars, gaming bars, they are pretty niche here in this country, I think. You see more and more of them popping up like ours. So yeah, we obviously just want to be there for when the esports market grows as it is, and we can get to that stage where you're having that, everyone's coming down for World's Finals, for example, to get together and watch it. And it's just like being at a typical sports bar for like a World Cup final and anything like that.
And Dalian, I guess this one's for you. You talk about kind of having your unique selling point and having that thing that brings people in. And obviously you guys are not only an esports facility, you're also kind of a more casual gaming PC bang facility. How do you market yourselves? How do you find the line between we are for casual gamers and we are for esports fans?
I think that is also the hardest thing, the difference between casual gamers and esports gamers as well, as it's quite a different demographic. We at SideQuest, what we do is we do show more of the high-tier gameplay as well, even just for regular streams and stuff like that as well. But we do also cater towards a casual audience, where we do offer different type of events for the casual player to even just branch out into the more of the esports style of events in the future as well. We also have a bubble tea cafe as well, so we take a lot of inspiration from the Asian market as well. And there are other kind of esports venues are around that as well, so it's pretty good. Yeah.
And then I guess we've got yet another approach to the idea of an esports venue with Endpoint and with Kinguin, where you have venues that are designed for professional players and that are designed for people to practice. How do you make those kind of venues commercially viable? Because obviously you're not bringing in the public exclusively in the same way that you would with something like Level Tap or with SideQuest. So how do you monetize venues like that?
So our journey, obviously as an esports organization ourselves, our journey came into it as a need for us because we wanted to boot camp. We had team houses in the past, which obviously used to be a very popular model, but they get very student housey, like players turning up at the onesie and having the breakfast at the desk doesn't really portray the image that you want. So we built the facility in Sheffield as a purpose-built venue for professional esports organizations. And, we were kind of feeding that need for boot camp facilities at a professional level. Because like you say, we're not doing it to consumer. And so one of the things that we're finding is that there's a desire for teams that aren't necessarily competing within the European region that want to. So we're seeing teams from North America come to our facility. We're seeing teams, that are attending events in the UK that are coming in from Asia or Australia, etc. And that really is the market in which we operate. And I guess from our point of view, it's a case of saying we are a professional esports organization. Mm-hmm. We know what we need and we know what you need, and we try and cater to that. I guess I'll let David talk from his angle.
I just want to drag it back a little bit to the topic of the perfect esports venue and suggest there's no such thing. In fact, I just want to be a little bit more controversial, say to be successful, you have to be beyond an esports venue and be what I would suggest a digital venue, so that you can actually be flexible in what you do. And I mean, we've got two types of venues. We've got one with accommodation, and the professional teams, our way of doing that is we give them the best experience they can, and basically word of mouth and results. So nearly every top team that's won the international has spent weeks at our facility, and more recently ITB, Viperio, who are here, they put online, say, 10 out of 10. So that's just good advertising. With our cafe and bar, we run all sorts of events there, so it's not just esports. So we've got 71 terminals, but we have a stage as well. So we'll have sports nights, we'll have Pokemon events, we'll have all sorts of things to keep people coming through and diversifying our audience. And you really need to do that because you've got a lot of money tied up in real estate. You can't afford for it to be empty.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of leads quite well on to my next question, where obviously these kind of venues are taking up, as you say, a lot of real estate for something that is still a growing but niche industry. How do you make these kind of venues useful to the local community? How do you make sure that it's more than just people coming in from outside or from outside the local area to use these venues? How do you make them applicable to not necessarily die-hard esports fans, but kind of the more casual fans as well?
Yeah, well, in Level Tap's case, that's exactly our goal. We are almost trying to cater for the more casual market and bring that, like I said, bring esports into a bit of a more mainstream idea. We're obviously a F&B led venue primarily, almost with gaming on the side, although we have got all the top spec esports standards, gaming PCs and console lounges, and we've even got a pro stage. But at the same time, everything's there for the casual market if you want to play around on racing sims or just consoles. But for the local community, we work with, obviously Liverpool's got 3 universities for quite a small city, and there's 1 or 2 just on the outskirts as well. So we work with all them and their gaming societies. I think their esports teams, for example, the minute they just fold out a few desks in a sports hall and everyone huddles around. So now they've got a full stage to kind of showcase their teams from, and all the other students can come watch them live. Huge game developer scene in Liverpool, proper hub for it, and we in close contact with all them for product launches and showcases and helping them with their events too. So there's a wide range of aspects, I think, rather than just people coming in to play games for a few hours. It is quite a diverse sort of concept.
Mm-hmm.
I think you hit pretty much the nail on the head. Where it's hitting so much demographics is probably the key to creating the perfect space for yourself as well. Because it's not about the experience of just the esports style of it. It's also the experience of the casual player, the person that just walks in, just wants to see the space. I think we get a lot of customers that come in and they're like, I've never seen a space like this in my life. And then you really introduce them to the space and how developed it is as well. It's fantastic in that aspect as well. So I think you really hit the nail on the head with that. So
I mean, we're being based in Warsaw with one of our facilities, our training centre. We actually have quite a lot of relationships with local schools and schools around the area. And so during the day, or if there's any space, we'll bring them in, introduce them to esports as such, and get them excited about what things they need to do. With our cafe, we're always running different events. So for an area that might be a lounge area, we'll have board games going, have a night for board games. It brings other people in, and then they see all the other facilities. Pokemon, absolutely, every time we run a Pokemon event, parents and their kids, it's just packed, which is really good. So it gives it a really nice vibe. That's for everyone, not just people who are really sort of serious about it. But it's just very varied, all the things we do.
From our point of view, we only hire out like business to business to other teams, but we do a lot of community work in trying to introduce kids into esports and trying to give them a behind the scenes look, because I guess we're from the unique perspective of we are an esports organization, and there's a lot of demand for work experience and for allowing students to see what goes on behind the curtain a little bit. And so we try and do that as much as we can and introduce them into that world and understand what goes on behind closed doors.
I mean, the fact that you're all able to do so much for your local communities is obviously super inspiring, but I think, especially now as we move into the, I hate to say it, post-pandemic world, there is definitely a conversation that needs to be had about the usefulness of spaces like these, because during the pandemic we saw so much move online. We saw the rise of things like watch parties via Twitch. We've seen people moving to Discord more than ever to like talk to their friends and watch matches via Discord. Do you think that spaces like this are still important for esports? Do you think they are losing their relevancy now?
We opened our facilities in March 2019, just at the start of the pandemic.
Couldn't have had a worse time.
It was a great time to launch. Subsequently, since it's been opened up, last year in our professional centre we had 62 boot camps, so different teams coming through. This year already we're up to 100, so it's actually growing, and we're looking to double our size and capacity for the future because of the demand, because what we offer I think is unique.
Yeah, I don't think the social side of gaming needs to specifically be online, and obviously it's that social concept when it comes to gaming and competitive gaming is 10 times better obviously when you're in person at a live venue. And yeah, so we still want to promote that even that split screen sofa style gaming that people had before the online gaming took off, bring that back. That's still a popular attraction. And yeah, I think being in person with your team or your friends side by side playing a game is still a lot more of an appealing concept, I think, in my personal opinion anyway, than just sitting online. Well, it's a pleasant change anyway.
It's the same thing with like gaming in person and gaming online. There's a distinct difference between that feel of being in line with your friends in the middle of a game. Something epic happens, you're screaming and shouting compared to just doing it online. There's a different atmosphere that you feel within the LAN watch events and everything like that. The different atmosphere that you feel, that little goosebumps you get when everyone's screaming and shouting because it's it's the last leg. It's like literally this is the comeback. Like even just watching would be last year's League of Legends Worlds. If you were there in person, it was insane. Especially as it was a slogfest, like 5 games. And that final game, you could really feel the energy and the passion from everyone there as well. And it was absolutely fantastic. So I think this kind of feeling will never die out, I think, as well.
Yeah, and I guess ours is more intrinsically linked to the growth of esports from a competitive point of view. Like David said, we're seeing an increased demand. We only opened our doors in May, and we've outperformed what we expected to do. And the other thing is obviously events coming into the UK. It was great to see the Blast announcement earlier. And please, if you're looking for somewhere to boot camp in the UK for that event, get in touch. But yeah, it's kind of, and I think that's where we're hoping is that we get more events in the UK and we see an increase in participation, and therefore there is a need for that dedicated professional space.
I'm just going to show my age now because a lot of the audience won't even know what these are. But years ago, there's a thing called a DVD. And when the DVD came out, they said, oh, the movies are going, theatres are going to disappear. It's not going to work. And now you got streaming, you got all so much content. But the theatres or movie theatres still, they're survived. And it's because it's a social event. And having been with Nintendo for many years, one of the big things we always looked at, the aspects of gaming being social and how much it really is a community. So yes, playing online is great. You still have a community, still social, but you see a lot of times where people have been playing online and they've never met the person physically, but then they go to events and they meet them and it's as if they're friends and been for years, which they have been online. So the physical attraction of being at a venue where you can actually interact with people face to face, have some fun, have a couple of drinks, food, whatever, I think still, it's got a lot of value.
I mean, we're surrounded by the lovely, lovely people of the UK esports community and the UK esports industry here today, and I think there's been a lot of conversation around where the UK is sort of at in terms of esports. Obviously, you've got places like Korea, where PC bangs have been a thing since the dawn of time. They've been super popular in Korea for as long as anyone can remember. You've got in-person spaces in the US, you've got tournaments being held in the US. Where do you think the UK industry is at the moment when it comes to esports, when it comes to generating value through these in-person events? Obviously, we've seen that we've got more and more events coming to the UK. We had MSI earlier this year. What do you think the UK industry needs to do to keep generating this appeal for in-person events? Kind of a big question, so I'll give you all a minute.
As an organisation in the UK, it's always been the challenge, right? Like why is the UK kind of not as competitive in certain areas as other, North America, mainland Europe? Whether it's a cultural thing, we're a footballing nation and maybe gaming on PCs isn't quite as cool as going to the park and kicking a ball. But I think attitudes are changing, and I think that, certainly the generation of children that are kind of growing up now, playing Fortnite, playing FIFA, playing all these, they're kind of casual games, but there's a competitive side to them. And I think that that's where we're seeing the growth in, spectatorship, competitors. And I think that paints a positive future for gaming acceptance, I guess you can call it, in the UK. And I think it's only going to get better.
Just a big thing is, put another hat on. I'm on the UK board for esports, and we did, I think it was about 2 years ago, a survey on the value of esports to the economy. Because everyone said, oh, look how big it is, look at this and look at that. But we say, what does it actually mean? How, put some numbers to it. And there was nothing. So we did that 2 years ago, and we're about to do another one to see whether it's growing. And in some extent, if it's flat or hasn't grown, that's not such a bad thing, because we then can lobby government and support to say, look, it's growing everywhere else, but not in the UK. We need support. And fantastic London and partners helping to encourage Counter-Strike to come here. That's some of these events coming, I think, really help build it, and all of our businesses then will get spin-off from it. But I think UK probably hasn't done as well as other countries. When you look at the proportion of gamers in the UK is really high. And I've always put it down, is that in the UK we're very much a console-based economy, a games area, that PC is not as strong as in some of the other countries where esports is really strong. And we've got to get past that, I think, to be able to grow it further.
It's definitely still finding its feet. We've seen a lot more events increase over the last 2 years as well, with Apex LGS, the Rocket League playoffs as well as MSI actually coming to London, and with rumours of Worlds eventually coming to London as well for the finals, hopefully. So I think it's still going to be that growing point, and we're still going to see more in the future as well. So it's really exciting time to actually be involved in the scene as well, so you can actually witness that growth as well.
Yeah, when I was working with the software developer that I mentioned and the centres that they worked with, obviously primarily over in the States, and I think Asia have got a lot of their own. And yeah, it's an entirely different market over abroad, and I don't know what it is with the UK. Like you said, I guess a bit more of a traditional country, a bit more set in their ways, a bit like a footballing nation, like you said, and that's kind of where the level tap concept came from. How do we offer a esports centre, LAN centre kind of experience in a concept that this traditional UK market will recognise, and that's where this lively sports bar atmosphere, somewhere that people can relate to and are familiar with, and aren't, the casual markets aren't going to be so intimidated by maybe walking in and seeing banks and banks of PCs that they don't know how to use or don't have accounts for or anything like that. So yeah, it's just putting it more in front of a mainstream casual market and letting them experience sort of firsthand in a live venue, basically the thrill and attraction of esports.
To keep it in the UK for a second, I'm going to say the dreaded phrase cost of living crisis. Obviously, we are having a bit of a rough patch at the moment economically, and I want to talk about the kind of elephant in the room when it comes to a lot of startup ventures, and that is monetization. How do you make these endeavors profitable? How do you convince people that this is something that they want to pay for, that this is something it is worth paying for? What parts of these things do you make them pay for? Like, how do you approach monetization for in-person venues?
So from our point of view, we came at it from the other angle. We were an esports organization in a period where sponsorships were on a downturn, marketing budgets were going out the window, and so we looked at it from a revenue diversification point of view, but also we had a need as an organization to have somewhere to train and to boot camp. And so for us, it was actually about mitigating costs in building a place, but also having it as an extra revenue source for us as an organization. So it wasn't so much about making that model viable in its isolation, it was about adding it as a value add to our organization. And like I said, it's outperformed what we predicted it to do. And so, for us, that's been a real positive experience. So that's the only input I can offer.
I thought you were going to say something.
You were deep in thought for a second there. I mean, it's a hard question, right? Because ultimately you want people to pay for these things, but you have to provide an experience that is worth paying for, when so much of gaming is I can just sit at home on my PC and I can do this at home and I can talk to my friends on Discord at home, and you have to, I guess that's what you're kind of doing with a sports bar, where you give a, hey, come and have a beer and watch a game. You can do that at home, sure, but A, our beer is much nicer because it comes from a tap, and also you can talk to people and you can look people in the eye and you can communicate with them that way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got a fully fitted kitchen and bar, so full offering there. And yeah, monetization-wise, like I said, it is a headache. It's a tricky one to try and get right. If you look at the PCs, for example, the sort of average spend per head of someone on the PC is nowhere near that of, say, maybe a group of lads playing EAFC and having a load of beers between them. One brings in a lot more revenue than the other, but I think the PCs are still important. Obviously, they're almost a core concept of esports, and without them, cuts off a lot of event opportunities. I think is the main thing for us. We still want to provide that, like I said, that LAN center experience for those people just wanting to sit, pay hourly, and maybe just all they want is a Red Bull or something while they grind Valorant. But mainly the main revenue from the PCs comes from the events, comes from the competitive tournaments that we hold in-house and stuff like that. So other than that, yeah, it's...
I think if you look at what the guys are offering, and we talk about the cost of living and things being tough, in actual fact, they're probably offering really good entertainment value for people. So if you go out and buy a movie ticket and you go and sit there and watch a movie for an hour and a half or 2 hours, buy a few things, it costs you X for that. But coming to some of these venues, the time you spend there with a group of friends, I think probably economically can be really good value.
It's definitely a lot cheaper as well, some of the things you offer as well. It's giving the space to these groups come in as well and actually have activities to do as well, because oftentimes that could be very, very costly as well. So just having these space provided for them with things they can either do at home, but they can have it more of in space with is a completely different experience that you would have than being online at home as well.
I've just been given the wave that we need to start wrapping up, so I guess to kind of close things out, we'll address the core question of what this panel is for, which you kind of addressed already at the beginning, which is, do you think the perfect esports venue exists? You are allowed to say yourselves.
I don't think it exists. I think it's perfection is always changing. It's always expanding, it's always getting different, and people want different things. But it's just creating the most experience you can for the people there as well, and how they interpret that as well.
Yeah, it's obviously such a young industry and still constantly developing, like you say. So what we're catering for now could change. We'll obviously have to adapt when that time comes. Who knows? It could be VR esports as the future, and everyone has to be VR arcades instead. But it's a fun one to try and keep up to speed with.
I think there's a lot of areas where there's room for different types of venues, and the opportunity for that to grow. It's just like any form of entertainment as such, or somewhere you go. You have bars that sort of have a sort of theme bars, sports bars, and I think here, not everyone's going to be the same, which is good. And then but you also going to look at what you're offering, the USP, and they're all going to be different, and this therefore gives potential for, I think, growth in the future as people learn, find out this works, this doesn't. Technology's changing, can improve things, always looking to make it, to get people in to say, hey, what we've got here, you won't get at home. You know, you can come here and we're going to provide you the latest technology, fresh drinks, bubble tea, whatever.
Yeah, and I think I was going to agree that I don't think the perfect venue exists in isolation. You know, I think that everyone has pretty good solutions to a need. Like for us, it's about having everything in one place. So we've got accommodation, we've got the facility, we've got a studio, kind of everything you would need for a professional esports, visit. But do we have a bar or a cafe or a place where people can watch people compete? No. But again, I think there's a need for that, and I think they're kind of almost separate entities. So yeah, there isn't one shoe fits all, but I think everyone's kind of doing a good job at catering to the needs that there are out there.
And I mean, listen, if anyone in the audience is looking for either a space to host a professional team or a place to go and have a piss up and play some Fortnite, you now know who that you should be going to. Thank you all for watching, and thank you all to my wonderful panelists for their contributions.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.